Welcome back to a new episode of GWeek.
It's our last episode of the semester, and we're excited to wrap up with news around campus and the world.
Since last month, Travis Scott's Astroworld Music Festival turned into a tragedy with multiple deaths, George Washington University was recognized by the All-in-Campus Democracy Challenge for its high voter turnout in the 2020 presidential election, and Taylor Swift re-released her fan-favorite album, Red.
We'll also cover the Rock and Roll Half Marathon that took place in D.C. earlier this month, President Biden's infrastructure bill, and the United Nations Climate Change Conference.
Welcome to the show. I'm Annalise Forlenza.
And I'm Katie Coolidge. This past Monday, Russia executed an anti-satellite missile test, blowing up one of its own satellites in orbit. The explosion triggered a massive cloud of debris to orbit Earth, some of which was dangerously close to the International Space Station, where astronauts were forced to take shelter in a spacecraft able to take them home if the worst-case scenario arose. In a statement Monday, Secretary of State Antony Blinken said, quote, "The test has so far generated over 1,500 pieces of trackable orbital debris and will likely generate hundreds of thousands of pieces of smaller orbital debris. The debris will remain in orbit for years and potentially for decades, posing a significant risk to the crew on the International Space Station and other human spaceflight activities," end quote. Russian military officials declined to comment on the test. However, we do know that the test occurred at a time when tensions between the United States and Russia have increased. Regardless, according to NASA, having the space debris can pose a huge problem. A 1-centimeter paint fleck in space can inflict the equivalent damage of a 550-pound object traveling 60 miles per hour.
On Sunday, November 14th, 9-year-old Ezra Blount died from injuries caused by the Astroworld Music Festival in Houston, Texas earlier this month. According to CNN, Blount was in a medically induced coma after suffering from severe brain, kidney, and liver trauma. Blount now marks the 10th death from the music festival, and CNN further reported that, quote, dozens of lawsuits have been filed in response to the festival. The festival, hosted by artist Travis Scott, was stopped due to a massive crowd surge that caused several concert-goers to be trampled. The surge began to push towards the stage once Scott appeared, and eventually resulted in overcrowding and suffocation for some of the victims. Scott and his team have not yet commented on the boy's death. According to CNN, each of the concert deaths were attendees under age 30.
Monday, November 15th, President Joe Biden signed the $1.3 billion bipartisan infrastructure bill 10 days after Congress passed it. The bill took months of negotiation and marks major progress for Biden's economic agenda. According to CNN, the bill includes support for transportation, broadband access, power and water systems, and environmental remediation. Mackenzie McManaman has more.
President Biden signed into law the more than $1 trillion bipartisan infrastructure bill on Monday, November 15th, a central part of his economic agenda and a big win for Democrats. According to CNN, the bill will deliver $550 billion of new federal investments in America's infrastructure over 5 years, reaching issues ranging from bridges and roads to the nation's broadband, water, and energy systems. Democrats say the bill can pay for itself without raising taxes, but the Congressional Budget Office found the bill would add $256 billion to the deficit over the next 10 years. Yet, this is smaller than the $2.25 trillion proposal that Biden presented in March, known as the American Jobs Plan. The bill calls for investing in $110 billion for roads, bridges, and major infrastructure projects. The White House says that 20%, or 173,000 miles of the nation's highways and roads are in poor condition, as well as 45,000 bridges. According to the text of the bill, $40 billion is directed towards bridge repair, replacement, and rehabilitation. CNN says the investments would focus on climate change, migration, resilience, equity, and safety for all users, including cyclists and pedestrians. Also in the package is $11 billion for transportation safety, including a program to help states and localities reduce crashes and fatalities, as well as $1 billion to reconnect communities, particularly historically black neighborhoods that were divided by highways. The bill would invest $65 billion to rebuild the electric grid, $55 billion to upgrade water infrastructure, and $21 billion to clean up Superfund sites, reclaim abandoned mine land, and cap orphaned gas wells. There is growing concern among members of the public, however, about whether Biden can draw support for this bill among voters. While many voters are saying they support the bill's funding for increases for rail, roads, ports, and water systems, The New York Times says some Democrats think it will be difficult to reframe this bill that was gridlocked for months. Furthermore, many of the projects may not be selected or completed for years. According to the New York Times, while 32 Republicans, including Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, voted for the package, the party is trying to, quote, dilute its political impact. Additionally, some Senate conservatives, like Senator Rob Portman of Ohio, have cast its passage as a victory for former President Donald Trump. Now, federal agencies like the Department of Transportation are going to be trying to figure out how to spend the money in the infrastructure plan. For GWeek, I'm Mackenzie McManaman.
Thanks, Mackenzie. Stay tuned for more after the break.
George Washington play a critical role in hosting debate and discourse on events of the day.
The right answer is not to refuse the other. The right answer is not to say, get rid of this religion. It's not part of us. It's wrong.
I think that the story of America is a story of race. So when I think of the questions that I'm asking or the stories that I'm going to write, I'm thinking, okay, well, what are we learning about our country?
Well, I think the likelihood of him being indicted is close to 100%. There was a lot of hurdles that had to be cleared in order for that to happen.
One of the reasons that Donald Trump is president is because there is such a frustration with the way that Washington functions.
Sympathy is one thing, but empathy is the language of recovery, and it's something that's, without a doubt, instilled into every person that's in recovery.
It's never lead with the positive, it's always lead with the perceived negative.
Well, that is part of the problem. I mean, I actually would agree with you on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. One of the things that we have seen that is most under siege in this country is the notion of civil discourse, and we here at GW, among other things, very much want to stand for that.
This is truly an only at GW moment.
Welcome back. GW has been recognized nationally by the All-In Campus Democracy Challenge for its high voter turnout in the 2020 presidential election. With its close proximity to the White House, GW has proven that its students are committed to voting and student involvement in political affairs. According to the GW Today, the university has seen a 12% increase in voter turnout as compared to the 2016 presidential election, making it stand at a 69% voting rate, further beating the national average of 66%. The increase in voter turnout came as a result of various Get Out the Vote initiatives like GW Votes, a civic engagement program facilitated through the Nashman Center. Emphasizing the importance of GW's voter turnout, Executive Director of the Honey W. Nashman Center for Civic Engagement and Public Service, Amy Cohen, stated, quote, voting is a part of lifelong civic engagement, end quote.
Over Halloween weekend, the on-campus Tau Kappa Epsilon fraternity house was vandalized and a Torah was desecrated. The anti-Semitic act of vandalism sparked outrage from the GW student body, who have rallied together to support the organization. Nusha Flore has the story.
In an Instagram post from the GW chapter of Tau Kappa Epsilon, the fraternity stated that their chapter is outraged and saddened by the blatant act of anti-Semitism that occurred over Halloween weekend. According to the DC Metropolitan Police Department's incident report on November 1st, the vandalism was discovered when a member of the organization returned home between 1:30 and 2 a.m. While Tau Kappa Epsilon is not a religiously affiliated fraternity, CNN reported that a quarter of the GW chapter is Jewish, which is roughly equivalent to the percentage of Jewish students at the George Washington University. Following the incident, GW Hillel stated in an Instagram post that their organization is offering to support anyone who is struggling. In addition, George Washington University President Thomas LeBlanc released a statement condemning the vandalism. He stated that it was an attack on the GW community and would not be tolerated. The anti-Semitic attack at GW demonstrates the increased rate of these kinds of attacks throughout the United States in 2021. According to the Anti-Defamation League, anti-Semitic attacks more than doubled at the end of May as Middle Eastern relations between Israel and Gaza strained. While these attacks have since decreased to their 2020 levels, acts of anti-Semitism still plague the United States. On Monday, November 1st, Chabad Colonials and Tau Kappa Epsilon held a Torah procession and solidarity rally, where students came together over the hateful act. To speak about how the GW community is combating this hateful incident, we spoke to GW Chabad Colonials President Samson Kampler. Okay, so my first question for you is, can you tell us about the campaign to place a mezuzah on every Jewish student's door, and what's the importance of this?
The importance of the campaign is kind of to just show like Jewish pride across campus, and the importance of having mezuzah is it really symbolizes that like you're proud to be Jewish, and that hate has no place on campus. The community rallied together for this big rally. We had about 400 people come in solidarity of not only just the Jewish community, but also in solidarity of Greek life. The biggest way to support is definitely to donate to that mezuzah campaign to help support that campaign and keep going across campus. Those scrolls are not $5 or $10, they're $50 a piece. So they're definitely not cheap. And then also just to chat with your Jewish friends and see what they need. Each individual needs support and wants support in their own way. And they might say, hey, I just need a friend to rely on. Or they might say, if you hear something, tell people it's not okay and explain why it's not okay. Right after Thanksgiving, we have on Monday evening our big menorah lighting that's open to everyone to come, which is the holiday of light to show Jewish pride. On that Sunday, we're doing a final light of the menorah with all of Greek life. So we're inviting everyone out, Jewish, non-Jewish.
For GWeek, this is Nusha Flore.
Thanks, Nusha. According to the New York Times, any unvaccinated Austrian who is above the age of 12 cannot go outside unless getting groceries, medical help, and other essentials. If the guidelines for the current lockdown are unsuccessful and numbers still rise, even more serious measures will be taken. For example, according to the Wall Street Journal, bars and restaurants will close earlier. This is the toughest approach out of all European countries at the moment, as Austria currently has one of the lowest vaccination rates in Western Europe, sitting at 65%, according to the Our World in Data project at the University of Oxford. Average daily cases are around 11,000. The Chancellor Alexander Schallenberg acknowledged that cases among the vaccinated were decreasing, and he has no plans to create restrictions for vaccinated individuals.
According to NPR, the Trump Organization has agreed to sell its Washington, D.C. hotel for $375 million. The hotel is being bought by CGI Merchant Group, a Miami-based investment firm who plans on turning the building into a Waldorf Astoria, D.C. The sale comes after years of declining business and lawsuits. NPR reports that the hotel suffered a net loss of $70 million since opening in 2016.
The Rock and Roll DC Half Marathon took place on Saturday, November 13th, attracting a large crowd of participants, including some GW students. The route stretched all around the district, finishing up at the RFK Stadium. Reporter Emma Myers has the story.
The Rock and Roll running series hosted a half marathon and 5K on Saturday, November 13th. Participants who registered received benefits like a finisher medal, a t-shirt, spirited cheer squads on course, a gear bag, course support like Gatorade, and more, according to their website. Starting at Constitution Avenue and 14th Street Northwest, participants looped west, then north, then east, then south, 13.1 miles to East Capitol Street Northeast by RFK Stadium Armory Mall. Everyone was given 4 hours to reach the finish line. The Rock and Roll running series has sponsors and partners like Heineken Beer, Humana, St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, and United Airlines. Turning the marathon into more than just a scenic run, the series offers live and local bands on the course too. Entertainment was spaced out from certain mile splits at various times when runners would be anticipated to pass. At the finish line, finishers were greeted with free beer and admission to the Finish Line Festival. There was a post-race concert to celebrate, also featuring local artists and entertainment.
So I was actually born in DC, and this half marathon, the Rock and Roll half marathon, has come to DC for a while, and my mom did it about 20 years ago. So I always knew when I came here for college I wanted to do something like that. I ran cross country my freshman year of high school, and I got back into running when I came to GW just because it's so pretty to run around DC. There's so many great paths, the Monument Route. So I've really enjoyed running, starting up running again, so I wanted to get into some racing. Mid-race, I think I said to my friend, we're doing a marathon next, so that would be the next goal. I think we might do this Rock and Roll half marathon is happening again in March, so we're planning on doing that and hoping to better our time, but we're going to get to a marathon, we think.
The Rock and Roll Running Series does more than just schedule runs. They provide a fun and lighthearted experience for excited participants to look forward to. I'm Emma Myers for GWeek, Washington, D.C.
Thanks, Emma. We'll be back after a quick break.
This isn't just our battle cry. It's our call, our challenge. Because when you were called to Washington, you were called to higher expectations, to a higher standard. We are called here to advance knowledge, to serve society, to change the world. Is that too lofty? Too aspirational? Is it simply too much to expect? Not if your classroom is a Smithsonian, the IMF, or on the doorstep of the Supreme Court. Not if you have access to the most hallowed institutions and formidable leaders. Not if you are given the tools to change minds, shape laws, influence entire fields of study, advance our way of life, change the course of history. From the nation's capital to the four corners of the earth, to far below the surface and far beyond our atmosphere. Here, unique opportunities, the ones that many people work much of their lives to get, are within your reach from the moment you arrive. This is where you find new pathways for preventing global epidemics, where your unexpected friend propels a new scientific movement forward. This is where you push forward as a team to break records and reach new heights. Where your classroom is 68 square miles of the most consequential land on Earth. This is where you will make it happen. This is the George Washington University, and what we make is history. So stand up, be bold, take risks, press on, push harder, raise high.
Thanksgiving is right around the corner, and Macy's is gearing up for what will be a normal Thanksgiving Day parade. Last year, due to the pandemic, the parade had to be modified and did not include an audience. But this year, the parade will be returning fully in person, welcoming back the crowds and all of the spectacular floats. Quote, "It's back, and we're excited to bring it back to the streets of New York City in its full form, in the way that audiences have grown to know us and love us," said parade executive producer Will Koss. The 95th marching of the parade will kick off at 9 a.m. on Thanksgiving Day and will feature a variety of balloons, floats, inflatables, and performance groups. Even Santa Claus will make an appearance. Guests entering viewing areas may be subject to a security search, but proof of vaccination will not be required. Koss explained that Macy's partnered with the city and the state of New York to ensure its health and safety protocols follow local and state guidelines, as well as the recommendations for the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. All parade participants will be required to be masked and vaccinated. Quote, "It's going to be a really exciting day, and we're really just elated to have the opportunity to bring it back in its true form," Koss remarked.
Earlier this month, Glasgow, Scotland hosted the United Nations Climate Conference, also known as COP26. This conference included many global climate initiatives and agreements. Here's reporter Britney Lavecchia to discuss the event and how GW students reacted to it.
The COP26 Conference in Glasgow, Scotland began October 31st. This conference went in depth on global climate initiatives with four main goals, such as securing global net zero, adapting to protect communities and habitats, mobilize finance, as well as working together to deliver change.
I think something to really acknowledge about the text that we have now is that it has clearly identified the end goal, which is holding warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. And so we've seen, okay, we're here at COP26 united to drive toward that goal. There's now an expectation in there that countries will increase their climate pledges before the end of 2022. We have a little bit of an indication of when countries are going to be expected to come back and communicate more measures, more policies toward achieving their goals. So I think that is positive.
The conference ended with the Glasgow Climate Pact, which outlined that the 200 countries would return in 2022 to discuss climate change with stronger plans to reduce emissions. GWeek spoke to GW students in Kogan Plaza on their opinions about the agreement signed at the Climate Summit. The U.S. and China have made a deal to cut emissions by 2030. How does this make you feel about our current climate situation?
I think it's definitely a step in the right direction. More needs to be done, but it's a start.
With this deal, do you believe that is possible?
I'm hopeful that it will be, but I'm not holding my breath about it.
The U.S. and China have made a deal at the COP26 Conference to cut methane emissions within the decade. Do you believe that this is possible?
Hopefully it can be possible. I'm trying to have children who can live throughout adulthood in a world that's sustainable.
How does this make you feel about our current climate situation?
Well, it gives a little bit of hope going forward. Hopefully there's something that can be done to reverse the changes.
This plan established a clear consensus between all 200 countries that more measures must be taken. This deal will not solve global warming, but is a step towards improvement as global efforts to fight climate change are intensifying.
I'm Brittany for GWeek, Washington, D.C.
Thanks, Brittany. Student Association correspondent Alina Fayaz is here to talk in studio about the recent installation of a university Metro Pass at GW.
Thanks, Annalise. After a tireless 5-year tug-of-war between the Student Association and the administration, as of December 1st, all undergraduate and graduate students at GW will gain access to a University Metro Pass, otherwise known as the UPass, as per a recent Instagram post from the Student Association. A long-awaited victory and exciting update from the SA, the UPass program will allow students to use the Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority's wide range of transportation options, including the Metro Rail and the Metro Bus. According to a recent email from the administration, students will be given a free trial for the month of December, but starting next semester, the program will cost $100 and be automatically added to the tuition each semester. Despite positive responses from the student body, some students are asking for an opt-out option to prevent the extra cost from being added to their tuition. The plan fell through back in 2019 because WMATA wouldn't allow it to be optional, which is what GW originally wanted for its students, as the program would allow those who did not want to use it to in fact opt out. WMATA chose to reject the plan because they believed the program would not be profitable if it was optional for students. Regardless, the new UPass program comes in response to a greater push for accessibility and affordability for all students to experience full independence to traverse across the DMV area and take full advantage of all the district has to offer.
Thanks, Alina. I've been feeling all too well this week now that artist Taylor Swift released Red, Taylor's version, after almost a decade after the original album debuted. This release is part of her initiative to own the rights to her own music after previous owner of her record label, Scooter Braun, sold the masters of Swift's first 6 albums last year. Swift called Braun a, quote, incessant manipulative bully in a Tumblr post at the time and publicly stated her intent to purchase the masters for herself before Braun had sold them. Fans had especially been anticipating the release of Swift's heartbreak anthem, All Too Well, Taylor's version, according to the Washington Post. The Post reported that the 10-minute song was originally meant to go on the album back in 2012, but Taylor cut it down to 5 minutes. The song was also accompanied by a short film music videos directed by Swift, highlighting the downfall of a relationship and personal growth of a female protagonist, a stand-in for Swift. Fans speculate this song and video to be about Swift's past relationship with Jake Gyllenhaal, but Swift will not confirm or deny. What did you think about the video?
I thought it was just phenomenal. No flaws, no flaws.
God, I haven't seen it yet, so that will be the first thing I do when I get home tonight.
Yes, definitely watch it. We'll be back after a quick break.
Hi, Colonials. Did you know there are hundreds of ways for you to volunteer with GW? Each year, over 1,500 alumni, parents, and friends contribute thousands of hours to make our community stronger. There are countless ways you can volunteer, so it's easy to choose an opportunity that is most meaningful to you, like connecting with students and alumni based on your student involvement, identity, or personal interests. Getting involved with your local alumni network. Mentoring a current student via our online mentoring platform. Connecting with prospective students through undergraduate admissions opportunities. Serving on an industry network leadership council. Becoming a social media ambassador. The list goes on. No matter where you are in the world or how much time you have to give, you can connect and volunteer with GW. And the best part, it's easy to get involved. Just visit alumni.gwu.edu/volunteer to learn more about these and other opportunities. Because of your service to GW, you are able to make a direct impact on the lives of former, current, and future students. We look forward to working with you. Raise high.
Welcome back. After over a month of protests and negotiations over inadequate housing conditions, Howard University students and administration members reached an agreement on Monday, November 15th, according to the Washington Post. Student protesters temporarily lived in the Blackburn University Center to raise concern about mold infestations, leaky pipes, and rodents. While the details of the agreement have not yet been shared, the original 4 core demands of the students were, quote, an in-person town hall with Howard University President Wayne Frederick, the permanent reinstatement of the student, alumni, and facility affiliate positions that are being removed from the school's Board of Trustees, a meeting with the university leaders about housing and legal, disciplinary, and academic immunity for the protesters, the Post reported.
Oops, she did it again. Britney Spears made national headlines as Los Angeles County Superior Court Judge Brenda Penny announced the termination of her conservatorship on November 12th. After a 13-year-long battle, Spears will now have autonomy over her life choices, thanks in large part to her dedicated fan base who led the Free Britney movement. The movement drew national attention to the conservatorship that has limited Spears' financial, personal, and professional decisions for over a decade. Since the announcement, Spears has been enjoying the little things, like visiting a restaurant with her fiancé Sam Asghari, and posted a celebratory post on her Instagram. Spears now has full control over her personal and financial affairs.
Student theater groups around campus got to show off their hard work this past month in productions, including showcases, plays, and musicals. Having something for everyone, the productions included classics and more modern selections. Lady Mason has the inside look into some of these productions and a preview of what more is to come.
Walking around campus, you may have seen posters like this on display, promoting shows produced by the GW theater community. This poster is advertising the Fall Dance Concert, which features many student choreographed pieces, but other fully student-run productions have been happening around campus.
And I shall play the lines parts you. I will roar that it will do any man's good heart to hear me roar. I will roar that the Duke will say.
This Midsummer Night's Dream is a sort of early modern day adaptation of Midsummer Night's Dream. The look of the show is inspired by the movie Oh Brother Where Art Thou, which is set in sort of a 1930s America. Everyone is a little dirty, a little bit hard on their luck, and the story of Midsummer Night's Dream is sort of dropped into that aesthetic.
Dreamers is a really, really fun show. It's Neil Simon. It's a farce, basically like a comedy where just everything goes wrong. It's a bunch of rich New York socialites who go to their friend's 10th wedding anniversary party, find he shot himself in the head, his wife is missing, the help is gone, everything's chaos, they don't know what's going on, and rather than like do the rational thing and call the police, they say, no, we're gonna cover it up. So the whole play is them trying to cover it up and come up with these extravagant lies and failing miserably at doing it.
I wonder why you were born. Why anybody was born. Why God bothered with the whole mess.
Bonnie and Clyde is about like disillusionment with the American dream, and these two people from the South/Texas who kind of have a fall from grace.
It's set in a really serious time in American history, and the story of Bonnie and Clyde was hope for a lot of people despite them being really murderers. It's a show that romanticizes their love for sure, but it shows the depth of the issues going on in this country at this time and how their story gave people hope.
Productions like these are made possible by the hard work of dedicated student organizations. Here at GW, we have 4 student theater companies: GW Shakespeare Company, 14th Grade Players, Generic Theater Company, and Forbidden Planet Productions that are all overseen by GW's Student Theater Council. Each company produces a combination of full-length and showcase productions each semester, with the goal of accomplishing their own artistic visions.
My first introduction to 14th was actually probably 4 years ago. My brother went to GW and he was involved with 14th. So I watched a show right here in the Black Box and was in love.
When I first got to GW, the first show that I did was with GW Shakespeare. It just seems like a really awesome community. Everyone was super welcoming.
Generic is literally such a central part of my experience here at GW.
I've been a part of 14th since my freshman year of college. I came into college thinking I wasn't going to do any theater. I did a lot of theater in high school, and then I was like, no, I'm done. And then I was incredibly lonely. So I was like, I know what makes me feel less lonely: theater. So I experimented with all the different theater companies, and 14th was just the one that made me feel the most welcome, especially as a freshman.
We believe that a production will not be fun to watch if the actors in it and the people working on it aren't also having fun. So I think the audiences can see that, and people outside of generic can see that, and so I think that's something that makes our company different.
To see your peers doing really creative things, and overall it's just a lot of fun. All my friends who come to see the shows really like it.
The next production being shown is Bonnie and Clyde, put on by the Generic Theater Company, the first weekend of December. If you would like to learn more about upcoming productions, or you yourself would like to get involved, follow STC on Instagram. For GWTV, I'm Lady Mason.
Thanks, Lady. That's all we have for this week, GW. Thanks for tuning in this semester, and we hope you have a great holiday and a stress-free finals week.
As always, check us out at gw-tv.com and on our Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube pages. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, we'll see you around campus.